Uh, Welcome to Christchurch Trumbull's Art Showcase. Let's have a virtual round of applause.
Hey.
Yay. I'm so glad you're here with us tonight. And I invite you to grab a beverage or find a snack or light a candle for atmosphere. I have my coffee right here. And my name is Paige Foreman, and I'll be your MC tonight. So a little bit about myself. I'm CCT's virtual intern and a third-year Master of Divinity student at Yale Divinity School. And I'm also in discernment for Holy Orders in the Diocese of Connecticut. So a little bit of background about this event. We rescheduled this after a tropical storm blew through Connecticut. And not long after that, a tornado hit. And right now I'm zooming in from a home in California, and we're battling like devastating wildfires actually. And all of this in the midst of a pandemic, and there's a hurricane in the south. We are living in challenging and scary times. However, in almost like every post-apocalyptic novel I've read or movie, there's always a time where people come together to sing, to tell stories around a campfire, or just to gather together and to appreciate beauty. And it seems that my computer is working now. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
We hear you faintly if you're listening to us. It's rather soft, but we can hear you.
Not now. Better? Okay, we'll try this. But yeah, to continue what I was saying earlier, during trying times, art brings people together to collaborate, to imagine, and to pray. And it's this energy that I hope to lift up and celebrate tonight. We have 3 performers, and that's Adler and Hearne, and myself and Peter Ulisse. And we're all zooming in from 3 different time zones. Yeah. So yeah, talk about collaboration. And after the performances, feel free to stick around and chat. But before we begin, will you please pray with me? The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Bless the creators, O God of creation, who by their gifts make the world a more joyful and beautiful realm. Through their labors, they teach us to see more clearly the truth around us. In their inspiration, they call forth wonder and awe in their own living. In their hope and vision, they remind us that life is holy. Bless all who create in your image. Pour your spirit upon them that their hearts may sing and their works be fulfilling. Amen. And one more thing before we get started. Please mute yourself during the performances out of respect for the artists and their work. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Lynn Adler and Lindy Hearne. Welcome back to Christchurch. Hi guys. And their music is a spirited blend of original folk jazz with deep Texas roots. And you may remember them when they came for a house concert, I think last year maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, let's give them a round of virtual applause.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Well, hopefully we are not muted. I take it you can hear us just fine?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. We're going to start off with a song called Making a Memory. We are all brothers and sisters. The world is our family. We are all gathered together, making a memory. We may not speak the same language. We may not see eye to eye. That's the reason we're here, is we're gonna try. We are all brothers and sisters. The world is our family. We are all gathered together, making a memory. Tal vez no hablamos el mismo idioma, tal vez no estamos de acuerdo. Por esto estamos aquí y trataremos. We are all brothers and sisters. The world is our family. We are all gathered together, making a memory. We laugh and we cry, say hello, say goodbye. May we be friends until we meet again. We are all brothers and sisters. The world is our family. Sing along. We have sorry, I'm gonna mess myself up. We are all gathered together, making a memory. Let's do that one more time. We are all brothers and sisters. The world is our family. We are all gathered together, making a memory. Una memoria, hermanos y hermanas. We may not speak the same language. We may not see eye to eye. But that's the reason we're here. We're gonna try. Yeah, we're gonna try. There was some nice singing along there. We imagined that we heard you. So Lindy and I are home here today at our home. We call it the Song Farm. It's the Spring Hollow Organic Song Farm outside of the little town of Winsboro, Texas, which is about 100 miles east of Dallas. And our hearts and minds are just with all of you and all the different parts of the world that you're in and all the different weather events, life events, pandemic events that you're dealing with there in your day-to-day lives, just as we are dealing with here in our own. And so we chose these three songs for you this evening with Paige's inspiration of what she envisioned that this coming together would be all about, which is just the arts, bringing people together in community. And so hopefully that was a good start. And this next song is a song that Lindy wrote with our dear friend Lisa Ashman. By the way, these songs are all on recordings of ours that you can find and listen to and hear more of the same at band. If you go to bandcamp.com, you can look for Adler and Hearne, and we have a whole Adler and Hearne page of music there. So if you like our vibe and our music, please seek us out there. And here's a song off of our simpatico recording, double CD, of songs of folk songs and songs of a spiritual nature. This is based on the speeches and sermons of Dr. Martin Luther King. It's called The Legacy. In completely equal portions, there is God within us all. However we feel mighty, however we feel small, everyone is an heir to the legacy of dignity and worth. The stamp of the Creator is in us from our birth, and each of us is priceless. Someday this thought may cross the earth. Everyone is an heir to the legacy of dignity and worth. We're not animated tools. We're not here for what we do. Not intellect, not race, nor position is our truth. Everyone is an heir to the legacy of dignity and worth. The stamp of the Creator is in us from our birth, and each of us is priceless. Someday this thought may cross the earth. Everyone is an heir to the legacy of dignity and worth. Our word is a legacy, the gifts that can't be bought. When we disrespect each other, we abuse the image of God. Everyone is an heir to the legacy of dignity and worth. The stamp of the Creator is in us from our birth, and each of us is priceless. Someday this thought may cross the earth. Everyone is an heir to the legacy of dignity and worth. Everyone is an heir to the legacy. Everyone is an heir to the legacy. Everyone is an heir to the legacy. Y'all, it's so good to be together with you. Thank you very much for those virtual applause, and Karen and Paige and all the friends there that we met when we were there last year from Christchurch, Trumbull, and the neighborhood. Thank you for creating this special way to gather together. We'll take all the gatherings we can this day and time that are safe and ways to lift each other up. And you all have lifted us up by inviting us to be a part.
Yep.
Say anything about this next song?
Yeah, this is a song I wrote quite a few years ago, and people keep asking for it, so we keep doing it. This is called Vessel of Love. Thank you all for tuning in today. Vessel of love, oh vessel of love. Lord, can you make me a vessel of love? Send me to places I've never thought of. Lord, can you make me a vessel of love? The wind is high, my sails they are weak. I get so afraid I can't even sleep. You're in control, it's your peace I should feel. Nothing can harm me when you're at the wheel. Vessel of love, oh vessel of love. Lord, can you make me a vessel of love? Send me to places I've never thought of. Lord, can you make me a vessel of love? Many a ship on the high seas are born, but all are not safe from the ravaging storm. Help me to reach those that cry in the night, ships that are sinking in search of the light. Vessel of love, oh vessel of love. Lord, can you make me a vessel of love? Send me to places I've never thought of. Lord, can you make me a vessel of love? Some boats are loaded with silver and gold, things of this earth that we all try to hold. Lord, fill my ship with your wealth from above. Help me to sail as your vessel of love. Vessel of love, oh vessel of love. Lord, can you make me a vessel of love?
Join us.
Send me to places I've never thought of. Lord, can you make me a vessel of love?
Thank you all so much. It's good to be together.
Thank you.
We'll try to figure out a way to mute out now so we can watch the rest.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was so special.
Great.
Let's make us all vessels of love.
Mm-hmm.
Also, for those interested, I have put links to the Bandcamp and the YouTube channel for Adler and Hearne. If you're interested, please check it out. And we'll go with my performance. Something that I've been missing since COVID has hit has been going on adventures and day trips. And now I have been finding other ways to experience adventure in my life, like going down an unexplored trail in the park near my house, or watching movies with family and friends, or just going to random Zoom meetings at school to meet cool people. The possibilities are endless. So in the spirit of adventure, I wanted to share 2 pieces of writing about short but deeply spiritual trips that I took last year. And the first is titled Superman the Ride, and is an experimental combination of travel writing, poetry, and photo essay. So we'll see how it goes, and I hope it speaks to you. I'm going to share my screen because I have photos. Okay, I hope everyone can see that. Superman the Ride. At the end of the long summer, I wanted to go someplace different, a place where nobody knew me and where I could forget about gravity, a place where I could fly. Superman, I thought. He could fly. So I took the train to Six Flags, where I rode Superman the ride 3 times. Length, 5,400 feet. Drop, 221 feet. Speed, 77 miles per hour. Flying. The first time I rode it, I had a feeling it was perfect. The second time I rode it, after I went on all the other rides that made my head throb, my stomach churn, my knees ache, I knew it was perfect. I rode it a second time so I didn't have to hurt anymore, so I could fly, my hands stretching towards a true blue sky. At the top, just before I fell, I saw a river flowing towards the horizon. I rode it a third time because the sun was setting. The kid sitting next to me was scared. I'm so nervous. Have you been on this ride before? I held up 3 fingers and replied that this was my 3rd time. What? Wow, I can't do that. Hey, what's your nationality? You don't sound like you're from here. We began moving down the red track. I start throbbing again. Superman is not of this world, but I am. There are laws I am lap-barred into, and they bruise my thighs. I zipped through a tunnel of mist and didn't want to come out. At the end of the ride, I high-fived the kid and then jumped on the train back home. On the train, I realized gravity has a track. There is no falling or flying. There is only towards. All right. The next piece that I want to share is a poem that came out of my experience being stranded in a town in New Hampshire overnight. And I won't say much more about it because I want to leave space for the imagination. But this is the Red Arrow Diner in Concord, New Hampshire. It's cold out there, the bus driver says. Closed stations, weary innkeepers, dark windows, and a stranger awake in small town sleep with nowhere to go. On the empty highway, Mars winks knowingly above, and Orion takes aim at the shadows. Somewhere out there, a great nebula of witnesses, I am protected. At the 24-hour diner, the waitress calls me honey and pours coffee into a black hole. I never do get warm. It's cold out there in the absolute zero of outer space. But there are places with pie and poutine where cops laugh over pancakes under UFO lamps. This is not the worst of possible worlds. I take my time signing the check for it. I was sure when I walked out the door, I would fall off the edge. Instead, I felt asphalt beneath my feet and saw the dawn lining the trees. That's the thing about the universe. It expands without anything to expand into. And that's what I have for you for tonight. Thank you for your attention. And I pray that God be present with you on your own adventures during this time. May God guide you down paths that expand your universe. And now I am excited to introduce our final performer and grand finale, Peter Ulisse. Peter is a poet, a painter, and a fellow parishioner. And he is also the beloved leader of Christ Church Trumbull's vibrant meditation group. A round of virtual applause for Peter. The stage is yours. Peter, you are muted.
Okay, am I unmuted?
There you go.
Good. Okay. Basically, I'm going to be reading from this book, Apple Tree in November, which is my latest poetry book. And what's interesting I find about it, in the January newsletter this year, January 2020, there was a big article on how I was going to be doing this book, big celebration, a lot of food, eating, drinking, and socializing to celebrate the opening also of the upper crop. And that was supposed to have been in June of 2020. Well, this little thing called a pandemic kind of got in the way and everything got postponed. So I'm hoping that by doing just a little bit of this tonight, maybe this is a good omen and that maybe everything will start to happen in a positive way after this. This book, basically I'm going to be doing poetry. I've been a poet for about 40 years and a painter for only 3 years. So be kind on the latter when you see some of the painting and try not to judge me too harshly. I'm going to start by doing a poem. In fact, the title of the poem from the book, Apple Tree in November. And a little interesting because I've discovered a lot about the interrelationship. You're talking about music and the interrelationship between the arts and how we could all view the same event, whether it be an apple tree, an ocean, or whatever. And a musician will treat it one way, a poet might treat it another way, and a painter might treat it another way, and yet it's all the same vision. It's that oneness, even though we're the diversity within the oneness. So I've been kind of fascinated by that. So I'm going to read the first poem, Apple Tree in November. Then Paige is going to do her thing and put up my painting of that, and hopefully this will do a little, you'll see a little bit of that relationship that I'm trying to do, okay? Then I'm going to read 1 or 2 poems and then do one other painting, and that should be it. Okay, so Apple Tree in November. I'll simply read the poem. Aquamarine sky fades to gray blue. No birds sing as tall, stately trees, canopied by thick green leaves in summer, stand starkly at attention as if in a military line. Orange and yellow fell to their sides, mixing with dirt. In the foreground, a much smaller apple tree, dwarf sky and taller trees, limbs spreading in all directions like broken bones. Blotches and knots line its withered bark as patches of new fallen snow warn of winter's coming and possibly a spring which will never arrive. Yet even after years of storms, droughts, and floods bend branches which will never straighten, others still reach for sky, and one notices the intricacy, hundreds of tiny limbs entwining like the most sophisticated spiderweb, touching each other from infinite angles, and a trunk deeply rooted in earth, solid, secure, despite weakened appearance. The tree is an old man, fragile, facing an uncertain future, but with dignity and respect, as if to say, come on, winter, bring it on, I'm still here. Paige, if you're able to put up the painting of that poem, and I can kind of comment on what I just said in terms of how a painter might view the same thing. If not, I have photos here to do it if you can't do it.
I am pulling it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Or you know what? That's a little small. Can you go back and maybe I can just hold my, oh, that's a little better. Okay. Can't quite see it. Okay. Okay. Okay, a little bigger. There you go. Okay, great. Okay, so the poem basically is talking about the apple tree, and it's significant that this is true of an apple tree, but also the metaphor of the relationship to a person in life. It's significant that it's an apple tree in November. The tree is past its peak. The man in the poem is past its peak. In fact, it's November, very late. It's not the apple tree in June or October, but November. And all the, obviously, leaves have fallen off. And it's in contrast to all those trees that you see in the background. Again, it's hard to see in a picture, unlike a canvas, but all those trees in the background are probably 3 times as tall as the apple tree. But the perspective of the poet or the writer or the painter, whatever, we can do whatever we want. So we're showing the apple tree up close. The most people, you would see all the trees in the back. Now, the advantage that all those trees in the back have, and if you want to do the equivalent in age, they're like 20-year-olds. They're firm, they're straight up, they're just going on next winter, the winter after, absolutely no problem for them. The apple tree, however, has seen better days. But we see it in the foreground in the painting. And I particularly try to arrange it so it's going in all kinds of different directions, almost looking like arthritis or broken bones or whatever. The advantage the tree has, though, is despite all of those frailties, it has a uniqueness. It's not just straight up and down like the trees in the background, but it's had a lifetime of experience. It suffered pain. It suffered all kinds of what are good things too. I mean, great when the leaves, I mean, in there in summer, you just can't imagine the great life this apple tree had. But right now, it's not that way. And it appears very fragile and frail. On the other hand, it is sort of dignified in its detail, in the way the branches go in all kinds of different directions. And you can see a little bit of snow there. And just as the apple tree doesn't know, this may be its last winter. It may not survive into the spring. So that the older man is also maybe wondering the same kind of thing. So it's the same concept, but looked at totally different from an artist and a poet. So basically that's that. Okay. All righty. I'll go through and read just a couple of more poems, and then I'll go to one other one, which I think in a sense comments on the age that we're living in and the pandemic and fears and possibly some hope. But what I'm going to read next is, you were talking, Paige, about, certainly about, and everybody's concerned about trees. Trees are just unbelievable. I have a whole section here about teachings and what we can learn from nature, and especially trees. Think of the Brazilian forest. Think of what's going on in California and the West Coast right now. So this is basically a tribute to the gratitude for trees, okay? Lungs to earth, cleaning air of dust and smoke, absorbing carbon dioxide. We chop them and slice them, load them on trucks to make houses. We choke them and burn them to warm homes, then reduce them to ashes or turn them into shopping malls and bad books, though they have existed for millions of years. And some still living today witness the signing of the Magna Carta. But before destruction, trees teach us so much. Even as branches break and leaves scatter in ferocious storms, trunks stay firm, rooted in earth. Trees are tougher than we perceive, and we are stronger than our most precarious thoughts and emotions. We had a meditation group the other week about storms and devastation, pandemic, everything that can happen to us from the outside. But trees sometimes can demonstrate that. When you look at a tree in a storm and you see the outer branches are flying all over the place, and it looks like it's ferocious, it's scary, the tree's gonna fall, everything's gonna collapse. But the trunk, if your center, your moral, spiritual center is strong, you're gonna hold. And just going with that, we could learn that. It's kind of a spiritual lesson, but we can learn that just based on trees. So that was the essence of that poem. Okay, I'll read you just one more, and then I'll go to the final poem, which will be the one about the with the other painting. A lot of this particular poem, a lot of our spiritual things, some are on children, some are on relationships, but time is one of the big aspects of it. So this is called Three Poems, One Vision, a little bit on the Trinity, three persons, one concept, and it's three totally different, it's a short poem, versions of time. And the first one is kind of what we experience every day. We go to sleep, we wake up, and we say the sun sets and the sun rises. But it's kind of an illusion, as we see. The second one is kind of oneness and diversity, that our being, whatever it is, and our light is the same throughout the universe. And the third one's kind of a romantic relationship where time seems to be elongated when you want to see somebody, and it's just a short period of hours. So it goes from big time to little time. So 3 poems, 1 vision. Sun rises, sun sets, another day fades. But sun doesn't die, it is we who spin. Years, nothing more than travel in a circle. Time, an illusion of mind. 2. The beam which warms my face lights darkest Neptune. Dense matter, empty space, all that is or was now in the perfection of silence. 3. Day snakes on its belly through weeds, more sideways than forward. Still 18 hours till I see you. Okay, so time-wise, one more, and this will be with a painting, sort of how as I began. The title of this is Halaban Twilight Storm. Now what a Halaban is, it's kind of a prose poem, but it ends with a haiku. So you get the description and then a 3-line thing at the end, which brings it together. And then I'll show you the painting. And in this particular one, the painting was done first, and then I did the painting later. So here is the prose poem Halaban. And I think you can identify it with storms, the pandemic, the tropical storm we had. I think you'll be able to relate to this. Out of the thundering darkness, rain pelts windows. Wind whirls twigs and chairs around the trembling yard. Maelstrom attacks trees with a demon's claw, cutting even mighty branches. Chaos unleashed as frightened families cling to each other in a nightmarish room lit only by ghoulish flashes. Out of the seemingly eternity of night, a sudden sun appears. At first, just a brief western glow like a dim beacon or slight heavenly lamp. But soon it becomes a bright yellow galactic knife cutting into pitch black, pushing turbulence away like a demon exorcised. Luminescence returns, and relieved families emerge with awe and joy to the radiance of orange, and in the distance, the reemergence of light blue, which never really left. We tremble in fear, but anchor to deepest self, more than emotions. Okay, Paige, if you would put up the painting, I'll sort of comment on what I just read.
I'll do that.
You can get it. Oh. There we go. A little larger, if you can get that. A little larger. Okay. Oh, great. Okay. Wait a minute. All right. This is sort of a realistic, abstract version of the storm. Now, what I've done in the storm, the people aren't there. The only where you see the people is in the bottom left corner, you see the top of the house, which I put in deliberately to give perspective of how big the storm is. So this is a whole house, and the storm obviously dwarfs the whole thing. So if you can imagine, before the storm, everything was just blue and light and normal. And during the ferocity of the storm, as it described in the first part, you could see the part to the right, which is all black and gray and dark blue and going in all kinds of different directions. This is the storm. And if you can imagine that storm through the whole painting, it was just there. It was ferocious. It was scary. But what's happening and what's changing is that whole yellow light. And I do have not only the yellow light in terms of what would normally come with the sun coming back, but there is a certain religious, theological, God kind of thing tied into that. In other words, this storm, no matter how deep, no matter how powerful, no matter how scary to all those families, the storm is only temporary. And eventually it's going to go away. And if you notice the way the yellow light is cutting in, it's almost like a dagger. This is a God of love, but a tough God. And the dagger is cutting into the storm and pushing it away, which is why only the bottom 1/3 of the painting is the storm. The storm has been there, the families have been frightened, but it's pushing totally away. And you get the impression that very shortly after the time of this transcendence, which has allowed even the normal blue clouds to turn orange and the yellow light is kind of taken over from everything. The storm will eventually be pushed away, and eventually all will return to its normal state. So it's a realistic nature painting on what would happen in a storm, as we had in the tropical storm we had recently, but it's also an indication of hope and the fact that all these difficulties we're having are temporary, and that with our own help and insightful and maybe a little divine help at the same time, these things will be pushed away. So what we get here is in my first painting, I think, is the same vision, really, the same idea that the writer has, that the painter has, but coming across it, in this case, through paint, through color, and in the other case, through words. And as your musical group started off talking at the beginning about the universality of all works of art, which is this performance here tonight, hopefully this demonstrates that a little bit, that we are all unique in our own ways, and yet we share this oneness of vision. And Jane's sermon last week on our unity within our diversity kind of was on my mind as I was kind of presenting this, that it's time for oneness, not everybody breaking up against each other. So anyway, that's the end of my performance. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay.
What a great message to end on. Art helps us connect with the deepest part of ourselves, which is God. And I find hope in that, and I don't think there's anything more to say. So thank you. And thank you to all of our performers tonight. Let's have another virtual round of applause for everybody.
Thank you, everyone. That was just beautiful. Thank you so much. Such inspiration.
Yes.